Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back today. Oh my God, Kate. So you guys, I know that you know this, but I have a survey up right now for the podcast where you can leave me all of your opinions, all the things you want to say, all those things. And this guest is actually coming to us courtesy of a request from this podcast. And so they specifically mentioned Raina and wanted her on the podcast. And I want to give a shout out to Shaylee Mendrziak for doing that. Thank you so much, Shaylee. I'm glad that you took the survey. I'm glad you gave me the feedback that you wanted to. So happy today to have Raina Beugelink on. Raina is a registered dietitian. She's also the owner of Shift.Work.Nutrition, and she's been a registered dietitian for 11 years. She's currently married to a first responder, which is how she fell into our world. And this poor girl just got pulled in hook, line, and sinker to this chaos and mayhem. And she's also a mom to a 6-year-old boy. Raina, welcome. How are you today?
Hi, Nikki. Thank you. I'm doing so well. I'm very happy to be here. I'm thankful that somebody put in a little plug for me. This is so fun to jump on this podcast with you.
Yes, like I said, we've been kind of going back and forth. We've been communicating about doing events and things like that and touching base on lots of stuff. You're always posting awesome, super valuable content on your Instagram and on your social media stuff. So guys, if you're not following, make sure that you go follow Raina. It's at Shift.Work Dietitian, is it not?
It is.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So go and check out her stuff, guys. She's got tons of awesome resources just on her social media. She's posting regularly with great information. And today we're going to break down some of that information. We're going to talk about shift work and nutrition and all the things that we should be putting into our bodies that 99%, me included, did not put into our bodies when we were working shift work. But before we get into that, I want to kind of break down, because again, coming into this, getting thrown into the first responder world, coming not from that background, how did you kind of fall into this? How has this kind of transpired for you, and what have you been learning along the way?
Yeah, such a good question. Yeah, I just fell in love with the man in uniform. You know how it is. So anyways, we got married. We've been married for about 10 years, and my husband, he's RCMP, so he's just right out of depot when we got married. And so my sister had also married a police officer, so he was actually with Edmonton Police Service for a few years. So that we just loved first responders, but again, nobody in my family had done it. So I actually had no clue really about what that meant and what it entailed in the day-to-day life. So when we were first married, I was very naive. I just he went to his work at night and I went to my work during the day, and I just thought we both worked. It didn't really think there was any difference. And as the years went on, I started to work with more clients who did shift work, because it said, hey, we do that in our house. I'll give you a couple tips. And I just started to look into more research, pull up some papers and look into more things. And the more I researched, Nikki, the more I just panicked. And because I just had no clue about, even in all my training as a dietitian, going through all those years at university or whatever, I had no clue about the impacts that working those rotating shifts and how it interrupts our circadian rhythm, how that actually impacts our life. My husband was pretty resilient for the first few years. He was tired, but I would wake him up and drag him to things, in the morning, and I just kept living life. And until I realized how much actually happens physically to our body when we do this, and the toll that it takes mentally and physically over the years. And never mind what first responders often see and encounter in their day-to-day jobs, but anybody who works shift work, doesn't really matter what industry you're in, you're likely going to experience these things physically. And it's really just a matter of time until your body starts feeling the toll. Some people it takes longer. Some people can work for years and years and years and they still feel really good. And so my goal and my passion became like, man, there's so much we can actually do with nutrition to help your energy, to minimize these impacts, these health impacts that I was seeing in all this research that was freaking me out about my own family. And I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find any resources that were really specific to this industry and that I felt actually fit with this crazy schedule.
Yeah, it's true. And like you're saying, like that whole like taking a toll on your body, people still, people can still function and they can still feel fine. The thing with that, and I know this because now I'm out of it, is you're functioning and you're feeling fine. And we laughed about this, but I'm doing air quotes right now. You're feeling fine because that's your normal. That's what you think is feeling fine. You're not. So that shift, say you're not run down, you're not, dragging ass, you're not needing a bunch of caffeine, maybe you got like some decent kind of sleep on your days off, but it's still not what you're actually supposed to get, right? And then you get out of the career and you go, oh my God, this is actually what normal's supposed to feel like. This is actually what, right? Like for me, and I mean, there's still, so I've been out of the career for 4.5 years now. I have not done shift work in 4.5 years. And there is still, it's about every 3 months, I go for a week where I just can't sleep. Like I just can't sleep. I will go to bed at my normal, because now I actually have a normal-ish bedtime, right? Where I have like a standard kind of routine that I'm trying to stick to get myself back on track. But every 3 months or so, I go to bed at my normal bedtime. An hour later, I'm like, well, hello, I am now awake for the rest of the evening. And that'll be for a set week. And it just like, and nothing, it's not a precursor. There's no stress. Like, I was like, try to do a deep dive. Like, am I stressed out? Is this why I'm, and it's just randomly. And then for another 3 months, I'm fine. And then all of a sudden it'll pop back up again. So I think like, again, like you're saying, those long standing effects are so much longer than we actually think. And they do, so it does really affect our body so much more, right? And the other one that I always laugh about is you always see those memes and stuff for like first responders, and it's like, a Greg has, 5 years on the job and he's doing great. And it's like this old grandpa that's like, right? It's like, yeah, because 5 years of shift work is what happens to you. That's what you end up looking like.
100%.
Right? Yeah. So I really quickly want to ask you, just like, so what was your schooling to become a registered dietitian? Because I know that there's different, like you can be a nutritionist, you can be a dietitian, and you can be like, I feel like there's a food sciences degree, something like that. Like, so what was your schooling?
So the path to become a registered dietitian is pretty specific. So we take a Bachelor of Science in majoring in food and nutrition. So start off with that background in biology and chemistry and biochemistry and physiology. And so that really lays the foundation. And then we do deep dives into just the areas of nutrition and clinical nutrition. And so after completing your degree, then you go into an integrated internship. So we do a full year of interning in hospital, in like outpatient settings, in food service, and all sorts of areas. So at the end of that, you come out with the title registered dietitian. So we have to be registered with our regulatory bodies as healthcare professionals do. So I've got the College of Dietitians of Alberta. And so that's part of our healthcare profession. So here in Alberta, I can use the term registered nutritionist like interchangeably with registered dietitian. Both of those for us are protected. So technically, somebody who didn't go through that whole process of getting your degree and doing your internship, they can't use the term registered dietitian. It's technically what we would consider protected. So as far as a nutritionist goes, could be any level of education, could be a weekend course, it could be like a diploma, it could be a certificate, it could be anything. So there's just the dietitian is a very standardized process. We are trained to work very clinically, very medically in terms of helping support people in their nutrition needs. And then you're trained to help with chronic disease management, allergies, IBS, all sorts of health related issues, and really helping people meet their nutrient needs. So there's a wide variation in that, but at least here in Alberta, nutritionist and dietitian can be used interchangeably for us.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, wanted to pop on here before we got into this next episode and let you know about a couple new rad ideas that we have for the podcast. So, the first one is we have a survey up, and I would love to know what you guys think about the show. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your ideas for the next season. And I just love to know what you like and what you dislike about the podcast. And I'm going to sweeten the deal with a $50 gift card randomly drawn from everybody that completes the survey. The survey is going to be in the show notes of all of our shows. So no matter what time you start listening to the podcast at, you'll get a chance to win that gift certificate. The second thing that we're bringing in now is the ability for you guys to leave us a voicemail. You guys can actually call into the show, leave us a voicemail, let us know what you think about the show. If you have a funny story you'd like to share from your time as a first responder, I would love those and showcase those on the show as well. So make sure you guys check out that voicemail feature. It's going to be in the show notes, and check out the survey. Make sure you get that chance to win that gift certificate. And it's so crazy that you say that because as soon as you brought up like allergies, intolerances, IBS,
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Like, I feel very lucky that I don't suffer from any of those. I don't have allergies. I don't, I'm not really, I don't think I'm intolerant to things. I don't know. Maybe I
Mhm.
just have a like rotten gut already, and it just is like, okay, well, you ate like crap for 20 years.
Yeah.
So you're immune to everything. But I didn't even think about that. And then add
Mhm.
on shift work and
Right.
how that takes a toll on your body.
Right.
I did not even think about, or like Crohn's, or like any, like, oh my gosh, I did
Yes.
not even think about that. So then
Yes.
adding on even more that you need to be thinking about if you do suffer from those things, or
100%.
if there is things that you need, like special dietary. I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's things you don't like I get it. There's certain foods that you
Totally.
don't like,
Totally. Yeah.
but yeah, not okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So when you're like, so you're basically seeing your husband kind of go through this shift work, you're
Mhm.
seeing your
Mhm.
brother-in-law go through this shift work. And so what were you kind of noticing that really stuck out to you of like, holy crap, like we need to address this, or like we
Yeah.
should probably nip this in the bud right now before it gets
Right.
worse.
Right. So one of the things, and this didn't happen for quite a few years, but like they have to go for their annual physicals and checkups and
Mm-hmm.
get their blood work done and just make sure everything is healthy and that sort of thing. And you just start to see numbers slowly start to change. And like
Mm-hmm.
we're in our like 20s and early 30s at this point. So like
Mm-hmm.
we're not, been in shift work for maybe 5 to 7 years. And you just see those things start to slip and it's like, okay, I'm a dietitian. I'm primarily doing all the cooking and whatever. And for sure, like we know the restaurants that are open for night shift. It is
Yeah.
not our fine dining establishment. So and we do fast food in our house. So I'm not against any of that stuff. So, but I also knew that it probably wasn't happening at the frequency that I should be seeing these changes in numbers. So I saw that
Mm-hmm.
from my health background of just things like blood work start to change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. And then just little things like again, bless my husband, he's so not a complainer, but like the brain fog and the
Mm-hmm.
fatigue and when I would drag him around to things because I just had no idea about like maybe the minimum amount of sleep he should get after a shift or how to help support him and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just started to see some of those things come in, and then there's obviously some of the weight creep that
Mm-hmm.
starts to happen, and lots of police officers that we worked with, we'd always joke about their red surge and how they would have to get a new red surge every 2 years
Yes.
because they only have to put it on every couple of years for Remembrance Day ceremony or
Yep.
something. But then they do, and it's like, uh-oh, it doesn't fit anymore. So little things like that where you see it in your friends and your coworkers and like our
Mm-hmm.
community and like just those sorts of things where we'd see our friends starting to get diagnosed with PTSD and like there is some like interesting nutrition stuff we can do that way or people off work sick and
Mm-hmm.
injured and like young people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just starting to see some of that crop up as we went through life ourselves and with our friends in our community. So that was one of the things I'm like, oh, there's probably more that we should be doing. Like this base level isn't tailored enough to
Mm-hmm.
this world. Like my
Yeah.
regular 9 to 5 nutrition strategies that I recommend Monday to Friday, this doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm. And I was gonna say that's something for sure, like, because you like even just coming out of like depot, right? Where
Yes,
you are running all day, you are doing
yes,
physical fitness training, control tactics, like you are balls to the wall all day, every day,
100%.
physically active, right? And then you
Mhm.
leave depot or like training academy, like it doesn't matter where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Usually you're balls to the wall for training academy. And then you leave and you go to your job and you're like, oh, so now I'm sitting in a patrol car for 7 of my 10-hour shifts driving around. Or I'm sitting at the staff station on the unit watching inmates. Like I'm not 8 hours of like running around. Or even like on the response team, like we have a dedicated response team at ERC. They're sitting waiting for calls. If there's no code, then they're just sitting at the staff station. And you're sitting there, and what are you doing? You're bored. So you start yarding food in your face because you're like, oh, I'm just sitting here, right? And you're, and we say it again, we call it like basically the freshman 15, or like the 10 pound, the 10 pound gain that you get as soon as you start. And it's like, and it just creeps up. It's exactly that. You got to go get new pants, and you're like, this is embarrassing. Like, I don't want to. I did an episode actually on the female uniform, and we used to have a stores girl named Lynn, and she was amazing. She was amazing because you would go to her and you'd be like, Lynn, I need new pants. And she'd be like, I know. And then she'd go and you're like, oh my God, so everybody has noticed that I gained weight? Like, fuck, right? So then you'd be like, you got the new pants. You're like, thanks, Lynn. But then when you come back to her and you're like, be like, Lynn, I need new pants. And she's like, I know, I see that you've lost some weight. I'm like, yes, I have. Give me the new pants. Right? But yes, it's a continual yo-yo of like up and down, up and down, up and down, which I'm sure, again, is not healthy for us to be up and down, up and down. And like, I probably can guarantee your husband has it. Then we go on shift challenges. Okay, guys, no sugar for this challenge, or no, we're gonna do a stairs challenge. We're gonna do a walking step challenge. We're gonna do a workout challenge, right? And we're gonna do a keto. We're gonna do the Biggest Loser. That was a big one when I was with the challenge, because it's that new thing. We're gonna do the Biggest Loser, right? And so I'm like, oh, the girls always lost, because guys, you know what? Fuck you guys. And you're like, oh, I didn't eat chips or drink pop for a month and I lost 30 pounds. Fuck you. Okay. Because fuck you. That's not what happens with us, buddy.
It's so different. Yeah.
Right. So you're going on that up and down, up and down, up and down. And then all of a sudden you fall back into your same habits of like crappy meal prep, no meal prep, working OT, throwing whatever you can find in your fridge into your bag, or living off the vending machine, or living off of fast food. So yeah. So what, like, knowing all this now, and I really find it interesting that you said, like, even just the blood work and the numbers, like those minor things, because a lot of us, we don't go get checkups. We're like, no, we don't have time for that. And I mean, we probably should, guys, probably should go get those things done, especially working in these careers. But so what are you, like, what strategies are you sharing? Because you said you're 9 to 5, the things that, in a hospital setting or in an occupational setting, not, first responder, it's not a cookie cutter mold. So what things are you advising people to do? What strategies are you sharing? How can we get healthy? How can we be better at what we need to do?
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head as far as like that yo-yo aspect of like, all right, it's very normal to experience different levels of motivation in our life. There's going to be seasons of like, we are highly motivated. It's like, and I've got that wedding coming up, or I've like got a death race, or like whatever. And so we go hard and we train hard, and then that event comes and goes, and it's like, okay, great. Now I'm done and I can whatever, or I reach my goal and I'm going to go back to normally eating. So this is something I talk about with my clients. It's called the all or nothing mentality. It's like, I'm 100% in, or I'm not even going to bother. Nutrition doesn't work very good like that, because I've made hundreds, probably thousands of meal plans in my career, and it gets old so fast. Like Broccoli Tuesday, just eventually you're like, I can't do one more Broccoli Tuesday ever again. And so we fall off, right? And then it's like, well, now I'm not doing my meal plan, so now I might as well just like eat chips and ice cream. Well, now I had chips and ice cream, so now I might as well just go to McDonald's tonight. Well, I've already done. So then I call that the toilet bowl spiral, where we just spiral down and down and down because we already feel like we have failed. Food is not a pass or fail test, but we treat it like that. And so that's actually one of the strategies we're going to talk about. What strategies do we actually talk to first responders about? Or just people who work shift work in general. But in this scenario, I know the type that I'm married to the type. So like they want to do it really well, and they want to do it hardcore, and they want to see results fast, and they're motivated in certain seasons of life, and yet they're so tired that the confidence to be able to execute it at a high level is really low. And so even though it's sometimes painful, we do talk like, No, we got to talk small, sustainable strategies because you will likely not be able to do this 100% of the time forever in your future. And
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case, we're going to yo-yo diet. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's actually really bad for us and bad for our health for your weight to go up and down and up and down and up and down. So that's one of the things, strategies is keep like, we have to ditch the perfectionist mentality when it comes to nutrition. We have to ditch that all or nothing. I'm not going to start until I'm 100% ready
Mm-hmm.
because life is busy and stressful and complicated, and it will throw off your nutrition plan. It 100% will.
Mm-hmm.
So guaranteed. So we have to be able to learn how to roll with those punches instead. Instead of being like, well, I'm only going to start when things are perfect and my schedule is open and free and I've got time to meal prep.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads me into another strategy is like meal prep. I've learned to think about it differently. I guess I'll put it that way. Where I don't actually like the days where you like go into the kitchen and you just prep like 27,000 freezers. I don't like doing that. I've tried it. It was the worst. I had no fun. It was hard work. And I put all that stuff in my freezer and I turn around and my kitchen is a mess and I still have nothing for supper because I didn't plan it out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like that personally. It works really good for some people. And if that's your style of meal prep that you want to do, great. In our house, I am more so the type of person where if I'm cooking, I may be strategic about the types of meals I do so that they're freezer friendly, and then I cook a lot. If I'm in the kitchen making supper, I'm for sure getting a couple freezer meals out of that, or I'm stocking up on really fast, easy grab and go things that I can pull from my fridge and pantry to pack in a lunch that is still balanced, but it takes minimal chopping, minimal prep, minimal cooking. And so that's just one of the things I think that is very important is stay stocked up on some of those fast, easy grab and go things. You can absolutely use leftovers in your lunch kit. That actually doesn't work very well for a lot of people in the first responder industry because of the logistics of their job.
Yeah.
So leftovers are actually sometimes a really bad choice for lunches.
Yeah,
So
I have a good friend, Sheila, paramedic, and she's like, I can't have anything that needs to be microwaved because there's no microwave in the ambulance. And yes, I might be at the station.
Yep.
I probably am not going to be. And I don't want to have this really delicious leftover sitting in my lunchbox that I'm starving and I'm looking at and I can't eat because it's cold.
Yes.
So, yeah, I really like too that you said, like food is not a pass or fail because I think that is exactly what we equate it to. We equate it to, oh, I'm fitting in my uniform. I'm comfortable. I feel good. My knees don't hurt anymore. I fit in my red surge or whatever it is. That's a pass. That means you're doing good, right? Oh, I screwed up and I ate this and I ate that. Now I failed. And like, oh, I suck. And like, why don't I have the willpower? Why aren't I mentally strong enough? Right. And we start to beat ourselves up that way when it's like, just eat the damn delicious donut that is there. Okay. But then don't landslide into the like donut abyss, right? Have the one donut.
Yes.
And then go, right?
Move on. Yep.
Yeah. The other thing I really like what you said too about meal prep is for me, I have a love-or-hate relationship with it. I like it because it gets it all done and I don't have to fucking think about it. I don't have to then go because again, there's this meme out there. If somebody told me that as an adult, I would have to decide what we're fucking eating for dinner every single goddamn night for the rest of my fucking life, I would have been like, can I opt out of participating in that, please? I don't want to do that.
Yes.
Because it's such a pain in the ass. So I love that. But I also am the person that's like, oh, I made 16 portions of whatever stir fry deliciousness. I don't feel like stir fry tonight. I don't want to eat that. So even though I prepped it and I know it's healthy and I know it's ready to go, I don't want to eat that.
Yes.
And so then I bring it and it just sits in my lunchbox and I'm like, anybody want to order skip? Anybody want to get some? Like, because I don't want this right now. So.
100%. Yes. And you've hit the nail on the head. And that's another reason why I don't enjoy those massive meal preps because like by the time I've opened my 13th container of like shepherd's pie, I'm like, oh Lordy, like somebody save me because it's so everybody's different. Some people, they can eat the same thing every day and they don't care. They just like that it's done. And other people, it's like 2 days max. Like, or they're not even a leftovers person at all. They don't like it. And so when it comes to meal prep, this is so important to know yourself and to know how important is variety to me. How many days in a row can I realistically hit the same thing? And just think about your past. You'll get the answer. It's like, yeah, by day 4, I'm done. So if that's what I brought for lunch, if my willpower is not at its peak, I am 100% going to order it. No, so know that about yourself, and then let's switch it up. That no, okay, I can only prep maybe 3 at a time. So I actually usually encourage my clients to meal plan for a set of shifts and then meal plan for your days off, because that's your weekend. It should look probably a little bit more relaxed. It should be more laid back. It should be less regimented, like all of us eat on the weekend. And sometimes even our meal timing changes a little bit. But some people, again, this cooking is their zen, and they find it a stress relief and they really enjoy it. And if that's you, excellent. On your days off, put in some really nice, delicious gourmet meals that you can spend a couple hours in the kitchen just kind of puttering and making it taste delicious. And that's really good. If you don't have time for that, or if that's like not at all enjoyable to you, then it is really helpful to have a really short meal plan for that set of shifts. So for us at our house, we did years of 4 on, 4 off, 2 days, 2 nights. And so I actually learned to meal plan different things for the days than I did for the night shifts. And so I had to switch things up because I just found like, this isn't working. Or it was me and my young son at home, and I'm like, I'm not going to make roast beef and mashed potatoes and all these veggies. I'm not going to spend hours in the kitchen when he's going to eat the bun. Okay. So so again, things changed, and things I came up with different ideas and strategies. I still wanted to eat healthy. That was obviously still very important to us. But I just realized that I don't have the energy or the time or the capacity to be doing it like this. So again, what I tell my clients now is totally different, but it usually helps to think about meal planning in shorter stretches versus, great, I've got a month of meals. That's not probably going to go over very good.
Yeah, well, and I think like again, like because our things do change. Like our days off are totally different than our shifts, right? Our shifts are usually very regimented. We are up at this time, we are driving at this time, we are getting our Tim's because we need the freaking caffeine, whatever it is. We're having our break at this time. Again, bar emergencies and things like that. But usually they're pretty standardized shifts. We're very routine based. We like our, you can always tell the crusty old veterans who are like, you're in my seat. That's my spot. This is the time I go for my break. This is where I sit in the lunchroom, right? So there are those things. But our days off are totally different because we want to fit in all the things we couldn't do when we were working night shift or day shift or afternoon shift. And so I really like that planning. And then again, if you do have that event on days off, you've got that birthday party, or you've got that, you're going to the movies and you want to have that popcorn and candy fest, and you want, then you can plan for that, and you can kind of like look ahead and be like, okay, so I know for sure on day 2 off, I am eating all the delicious things. So maybe for the other 3 days, I should not eat all of the bad things. Maybe I should be a little bit better and think about moderation, right?
Yeah.
So the other question I have for you, because this is all, I literally just came back from Costco right before we jumped on this call, and I was like, can't afford.
Yep.
I really need it, but holy Jesus, why is that $24 when it used to be $12?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about these quick grab and goes, these, easily, you're not doing a ton of prep work and chopping and stuff like that.
Yes.
How do we also then mitigate cost? Because although we are making decent money, usually as first responders, we also sometimes have a lot on the go and a lot of debt and a lot of things that we need to pay for, and families and kids, and they eat everything. So how do we mitigate that?
Yeah, so good, because I was laughing at your Costco thing, because last time I was at Costco, I walked around with my calculator open on my phone, and as I put things in my cart, I put in $16.99 or whatever, so that I knew by the time I got, because the last few times I've been in Costco, I get to the till and I'm like trying not to have a panic attack because she tells me. And these are the things that I normally buy, and every time the total at the till is higher and higher and higher. So I so appreciate this question. People used to say, man, healthy eating is so expensive. And I'd be like, no, we can do it. But no, like, I think we need to appreciate just how much everything costs right now. And so this is the point where we need to weigh out that time versus money side of things, where there's going to be cheaper ways to do things, but it's going to do it in like portions or prep or whatever. It's going to take a little bit more than of your time to say, okay, it's cheaper to buy broccoli that's not cut up in a bag or cauliflower that's not cut up. But now we need to, okay, now I got to bring that home. I have to make a plan to chop that up and to prep it and whatever. So if feel like you've got a little bit more time and less room in the budget, then there are things that we need to step away from the convenience side of it. So the pre-portioned things, pre-portioned nuts, pre-portioned jerky, pre-portioned cheeses, step away from that and buy more so in bulk. And now you will do more of that prep work at home. There are some things that we will buy and I'll invest in because of that time thing. And I usually throw away less food. So if it's like that head of cauliflower and I bought 3 of them because I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to wash it and chop it and prep it. I'm going to make a beautiful veggie tray or it's whatever. And then the days go by and then next time I look at it and it's brown and mushy.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But
I literally did it with Greek yogurt today because I looked at it and I was like, okay, the individual ones, which are great because I know the portion size and I know what I'm getting and it's grab and go. I mean, I could buy like, they were $15.99 to get the 24 pack. And I was like, God damn it. And like, the other thing is I have to fight my children off and like hide things in the beer fridge so they don't eat the things that I want to eat.
Right.
Like stop eating my things. Right.
Yes.
But then the 3-pack of like the big tubs was $10.99. And I was like, oh, just portion it out yourself. Just put it in little tubs. Yes. But the issue is that I open it up and I portion out maybe like 3 or 4, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take my yogurt and my granola and my berries and that's my morning, blah, blah, blah. And I do it 3 or 4 times over a week and a bit, 2 weeks, maybe. I go to open it up the next time and there's at least half left in the container and it's rotten. And I'm like, and then I'll do it again with the second one and I'll do it again with the third one. And then I'm like, I just threw away a tub and a half of Greek yogurt when I could have just spent the extra $5 and got the little mini ones and I would have eaten all of them. So So
that is part of this, is just finding that balance and knowing yourself and knowing that schedule. Like it's kind of expensive to buy a Costco shepherd's pie. It's like, I don't know, 25, $30, whatever it is now. However, if I also look ahead and say, this is a crazy week for us, we've got night shifts, I've got like all sorts of extracurricular activities that I'm running to, and I've got this much work and blah, blah, blah. So if I'm looking ahead to the schedule and saying, this $25 is going to give me, like, I know out of that shepherd's pie, I can usually get about 6 freezer meals. That's how I divide that up. So I know that's going to give me 6 freezer meals. So great for the night shift. I can send that or whatever. And then we've got a couple fast dinners. The price of it might outweigh what I've got going on in my schedule, because otherwise we might eat out, which adds up really fast these days too. Sometimes, to be perfectly honest, eating out is cheaper. It is wild right now how much things have changed. So just depending on yourself and your family dynamics and whatever's going on, some things are still cheaper. If we are working on prioritizing our health, then we have to look at that time versus money, and we have to pick and choose. Like, no, I can definitely prep out my own stuff over here or make this at home versus buying the version of it that's pre-prepped. And I know that's one area that I can do that, but to me, it's just worth it to buy granola. I'm not going to make my own homemade granola. I don't, whatever the example is. So I don't know. So everybody's a little bit different in their home scenarios, but I think it's a very important thing for us to weigh out to minimize food waste, like you said, and to just know your schedule. So it might vary from week to week. So
yeah, I've said to my husband the other day, I was like, I'm just going to become a homesteader. And he was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I'm just going to start growing all our own food. We're on the acreage. I love gardening. Yeah. I was like, I love gardening anyway. So I'm like, I'm going to make a big garden. I'm going to figure out how to preserve it all. I was like, how do we freeze dry food? He's like, stop. He's like, we're not eating freeze dried food. I was like, well, in the wintertime when we can't have fresh things, he's like, I don't even want to talk to you right now. Stop with your craziness.
Yes,
Like,
I know. I think we're all feeling this like enough already.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, totally.
So when you're talking about, because you mentioned some really great ones, so like prepackaged nuts, jerky, things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
When we're talking about these grab and goes, or
Hmm.
what should be going into our lunch kits,
Hmm.
what like again, and I would love for you to delve into the difference between a day shift and a night shift and what maybe that
Hmm.
should look like. And you
Hmm.
also mentioned leftovers and
Hmm.
how with those leftovers, and I know because I saw this on one of your Instagram posts, what we take as leftovers isn't necessarily what actually was the meal the night before. And we only take one part of that meal because usually whatever we're not taking was more perishable. Say it was the salad or it was the
Yep,
whatever.
yep.
So can you break that down? We'll kind of break it down to little. So hit me up with your say, and I'm putting you on the spot, but hit me up
No,
with
it's
your
good.
top five grab and go snacks that we should be taking with us.
Oh, that's so good. Okay. So when I talk about a snack, I want there to be a source of protein, and I usually want there to be some type of carbohydrate that comes with it. So maybe a fruit, a veggie, a muffin, or whatever, paired with the protein. That's going to give you your best energy. So really fast snacks that are grab and goes are usually like a piece of fruit, like a banana, an apple, a mandarin orange, a granola bar, a muffin, like things like that that we can just like swipe into our bag and go. I have nothing against any of those foods, but there needs to be a protein with it. So things like if I'm grabbing an apple, I want to grab like a baby bell cheese with it or one of my kids' cheese strings. If they steal from my food, I'll steal from their food. So you can totally raid your kids' snacks. So pairing those things together. So that would be a grab and go, a piece of fruit plus maybe a cheese or a little package of nuts. Or right now, my husband's on a big cottage cheese kick. So he does cottage cheese with maybe some berries or maybe some sliced up banana, things like that. That's maybe not as good grab and go. You got to do the whole Tupperware thing. But so anything where you're pairing together a piece of fruit that's very grab and go with a piece of protein that's very grab and go. There are lots of things out there that are have that balance together for you, the protein together with the carbohydrate. So some of the brands I love are the RX bars. We can get those at Costco. That's the cheapest place I've ever found the RX bars, and they do go on sale every once in a while. So when they go on sale, I'll pick up a couple boxes of them. They're dates and egg whites and nuts, and not everybody loves them. They're not for everybody, but they are awesome in terms of ingredients and the balance between that carbs and the protein. So that's one of my favorite grab and go bars right now. Trail mix, I love because you've got the protein from the nuts and then the raisins and chocolates or dried fruit or whatever you got going on. That's a perfect combination right there. I will eat trail mix like popcorn. Like I have very low self-control when it comes to trail mix. So to me, that one is worth it to pre-portion just because nuts are they're full of healthy fats, but because those fats are also very high calorically. So our calories can really add up quite quickly in things like that. So to me, that's one that's worth the pre-portioning. The other one that I love right now is roasted beans. And roasted beans, you can get them as like roasted chickpeas, roasted fava beans, roasted lentils. These are so shelf stable that they essentially like it's very hard to throw them out because they last so long. So it's a very good non-perishable, doesn't freeze, it doesn't melt, it's very carb friendly. So I love that aspect about it. It's got carbohydrates in it, but they're so high fiber because they're beans after all, and such a great source of protein. So the flavors that roasted beans come in now are awesome. It's like zesty cheddar, it tastes like Doritos. You've got dill pickle, you've got sea salt and lime, jalapeno, like all sorts of different flavor things for whatever you enjoy. So that's one of my favorite grab and goes right now too. And then how many am I at? I feel like I'm at three or four.
Three.
Three,
Yeah.
three. Okay, pre-portioned jerky, as I mentioned, that is one of my favorites as far as the protein goes. And then I'll usually have that with like a piece of fruit that I'll just throw along with it. And then one of the other things that I'm really, really enjoying right now is those turkey pepperoni sticks.
Mhm.
I grab a bunch of those, or even one or two of those. It doesn't need to be too much. And maybe just some of those with some crackers, or maybe it's a turkey pepperoni stick and some cheese and some crackers. It's like adult Lunchables, basically, is what
Yeah.
it is. So, and you can get things like that too, like those little Sargento snack packs. Again, you pay a high price point
Yeah.
if it's done for you. But
Mhm.
again, if it's like this is a crazy week and I just need some stuff for me and to throw into my lunch and it's just swiping things out of the fridge and pantry, we can do that in an economical way, and we can have maybe one or two items that is a little bit more expensive. That really helps round things out for us and very, very fast. So,
Yeah, I think that's awesome. The one question I do have about that is like, what about the salt content? Because
mhm.
I like, again, I don't have an issue with salt.
Yes,
Don't think I have a hypertension or anything like that. But I know that there are a lot of people that work in first responder careers that have hypertension and high blood pressure. So
totally.
so what about the like, I mean, are we just looking for low sodium versions of these, unsalted nuts, like things like that?
If that's something that is specific to you, then I would look at it. There's actually a lot of things related to high blood pressure, and we look to salt as the first like line of
Mm-hmm.
kind of therapy that we're going to take care of. And for sure, it's one of the things that we need to keep an eye on. But really, I think there's so many other things that will actually impact your blood pressure before salt will. And so,
Yeah.
depending on what we're doing, you're right. We could do low sodium jerkies. We can look for, you can do unsalted nuts, like things like that, especially in the snack department that are
Mm-hmm.
really going to be there. If we are, say, still heavy in some of our processed foods, maybe we're doing like, I don't know, pre-made hungry mans or like pre-made freezer
Mm-hmm.
meals, and we're eating out a couple times a week, and we're pulling out a freezer lasagna, things that are more processed and more
Mm-hmm.
readily made, and that's making up the majority of our diet. Whether you have salt on your nuts or not is not going to be the main culprit
Yes.
of the added sodium into our diet. So it is a combination between things of like, what are we doing at home to really control how much added salt is coming into our diet? How many times are we eating out? Because that's a huge contributor to salt. Our salt
Mm-hmm.
intake is the restaurant foods. So sometimes we look at things like that, the bigger picture overall versus just like, I must buy unsalted nuts because I have high blood pressure.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Okay, so now break me down the lunch kit. So we're going for day shift.
Mhm,
What am I wanting to
mhm,
put into my lunch kit?
mhm, mhm. So day shifts are usually, especially for working 12s, these are usually very early start. It is super common for my clients to not eat breakfast
Mm-hmm.
when we first start working together. Because if they have to start at 6, sometimes they're up at like, and if they go for a workout beforehand, they're up
Mm-hmm.
at like 3:30, 4. Like,
4. Yep.
putting breakfast in that time will feel like garbage. Your
Mm-hmm.
gut will be very unhappy with you about eating that early in the morning because it's probably still asleep.
Yep.
So from that point, many of my clients just don't have breakfast at all, and then they go into lunch. I actually think you should have some sort of breakfast come in, but within a few hours of waking up. So don't miss that time to eat altogether. This is where I highly recommend actually doing some meal prep for breakfast. So exactly like you said, Nikki, earlier, over a set of shifts, maybe plan out 4 at a time, maybe some Greek yogurt parfaits. You make those up in little jars, or you can reuse the Tim Hortons yogurt cups. They're perfect for it.
Oh.
So we have lots of those kicking around in our house. So yogurt, berries, granola in the little cup that they give you, and then
Mm-hmm.
it stays very fresh. And then that's a very easy grab and go out the door for an early morning day shift that you can even have a little bit later with you. If you don't feel good eating, I recommend a smoothie because you can pack that thing with protein and lots of nutrients, but liquid will sit a little bit easier in your gut than will solid foods. So
Mm-hmm.
something easy for breakfast that has protein is one of my recommendations. You can bring it with you to work, like in the lunch kit,
Mm-hmm.
or you just have it on your way, just depending on how that feels for you. So it is annoying packing one extra meal in your lunch kit. I fully appreciate that, but the meal prep for breakfast can actually really, really help. So it's just a swipe out of the door, like swipe out of the fridge as you go out the door in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm usually throwing in 2 of those balanced snack options. So I would love for that balanced snack to maybe happen around mid-morning and then another one around mid-afternoon or maybe on your drive home. So maybe that's veggies and hummus. Maybe that's an apple and a cheese. Maybe that's a simple Greek yogurt, whatever it is that we're doing. A few of those things could happen. At lunch, I do fast, easy. Again, I don't like cooking for lunch. So if it is not leftovers, then my other go-to that I do most often is what I call my bento box. So I've got finger foods essentially. So this works very well for driving. If you're stuck at your desk,
Mm-hmm.
if you can't leave, you can still eat when you need to eat versus when you actually get a chance to take a break and go heat up your lunch. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
big difference there. So would be things like those turkey pepperoni sticks, maybe some hard-boiled eggs. Veggies I don't have to wash and prep. So every week I'll buy at least 2 very easy veggies. So snap peas, cherry tomatoes, baby carrots, mini bell peppers, mini cucumbers. I can actually just dump all those things into a Tupperware, or I put them right into Ziploc bags. And that's just a swipe into my lunch kit. Those little mini hummuses I will buy. And then I usually just pair that with like crackers or pita or something. So I've kind of got this finger food, again, like charcuterie box lunchable sort of style, but it's completely balanced. So it's good protein, good fiber, and my blood sugar levels aren't going to spike and crash so that I feel gross in 2 hours. So that would be a fast, easy lunch that I would throw together. And then ideally we come home for dinner at the end of the day shift. But
Yeah, I like that too, the bento box of just like, because and that is what I hear all the time from people, and even like other podcast guests when I ask them a question, what's your favorite food or snack, right? Is it has to be something that I can eat with one hand while I'm writing a report, while I'm typing, while I'm driving, and if even better, if well, at least I got one little square of the bento box. I got to eat the one little square. There's 3 more, but like on my way to the call, I was able to whap some hard-boiled eggs into my mouth as I was driving, right? Or something like that. So you're at least getting a little bit, and it's easy. It's like you said, grab and go, and you can with one hand. I like that. And I like the fact that you're saying too, like breakfast, it doesn't necessarily have to be eggs and like a big prep breakfast, because I think that's the other thing is people are like, well, I need to have protein, and so they think protein is eggs, and it's like Greek yogurt is a great one. Yeah, again, your smoothie, protein powder, like protein bar. Like if you don't like to eat, and my husband is not a breakfast person. He will not. He doesn't eat until like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, I've had breakfast and 11s by then. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know how you're waiting until 1 o'clock to eat. But so I like that there are different options out there. And so then what does a night shift look like?
The biggest thing with night shift is really the timing. And so day shift, it's like fairly easy to figure out. We kind of know how to do that just normally. Night shift can be totally similar foods, but when you eat them is so important. So one of the biggest recommendations is supper. The meal that happens around the supper hour should still be probably your biggest meal of the day. And so that is still important from a digestion standpoint. From if we have a chance to sit down and eat with our family before we go into night shift, that's very important from relationship standpoints, blah, 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 all that side of it. So that still needs to ideally be your biggest meal of the day. What often happens though is we sleep in as long as we can. We wake up, maybe grab something small. We head into our night shift, gets slammed with calls, or it's very busy right at the start. And then once things quiet down, maybe around 2, 1 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever the time is, then we're starving.
Yes.
And if we haven't prepped anything, then the only thing available to us is the golden arches. And so over we go to Don's and just get what's available. And usually at that point, if we're tired and hungry and had a tough shift already, then we are looking for something to pick me up, and your brain will drive you to eat something that is delicious, and then it'll release those feel good hormones in your brain when you have it. And so it's a bit of a vicious cycle. So when it comes to night shift, your body can handle fast food so much better if you actually ate it before midnight versus eating it after midnight, which is really interesting. And so when we're sleeping overnight, in a normal scenario, your gut is actually resting and restoring. It does not have the digestive enzymes to handle food. It doesn't want to digest and metabolize food. But when we're awake overnight, the gut doesn't know the difference. And so then when we eat that stuff, for some people, it creates a lot of gut issues. So shift work is actually a risk factor for IBS, for those irritable bowel diseases like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, which is super interesting. So what you eat overnight is actually really, really significant. So eating enough before midnight is actually really important. So I would have that supper. I would have a balanced snack, maybe early evening if you could. I try and aim for lunch around midnight if possible. And then from there, you actually want to create a bit of a fast from midnight to 6 a.m. This is research-based, rosy-colored glasses on in a perfect world. This is what we're doing. If you're physically hungry, absolutely having a couple of those snacks on hand, those grab-and-go things, an extra bar in your bag, an extra thing, maybe just a shaker cup your blender cup with some protein powder, having that with you ready to go if you're starving, if you're hungry. But then you still want to have breakfast when you get home from that shift. So it is actually really important to have breakfast before going to bed, something lightish, it's not like Ricky's brekkie bowl kind of breakfast. You want to have something light, and that will help protect your sleep, give you a better quality sleep. But letting your gut rest overnight is actually one of the most important things with your night shifts.
That is amazing. Like I wish we'd had this, and I hope our listeners are also having their minds blown right now because I always used to, when I was working night shift, I would delay eating. I would delay eating as long as I could because I'd be like, I know come 4 a.m. I'm gonna be fucking starving. And so I'm gonna like wait. I'm not gonna eat my lunch now, even though I'm hungry now at 11 o'clock at night. I'm gonna wait. And then when I'm really starving at 4, then I'll eat my lunch. When really I should have just been eating before midnight at 11 when my body actually was hungry because like exactly like you said, come 4 a.m. I am starving, but I don't want what's in my lunch kit. I want McDonald's. I want chips. I want like because I have right. And it's like I had a visceral response when you were talking about at the 4 a.m. at McDonald's. You've never tasted fast food taste so fucking delicious than when you're starving at 4 a.m. You've had a shitty night, you've had multiple calls, you're exhausted, you're on day 6 of nights, and you take that bite of that cheeseburger and it is like the best thing you've ever tasted in your entire life. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I can get through the next 3 hours. I am good to go. I mean, I feel like garbage. My stomach is not happy, but I can do it. So so we should have been eating and then just letting ourselves settle. I like that. I really, wow. Yeah.
Well, and the only way it works is that we have to start eating from when we wake up. And then we are hitting all those meals and snacks leading up to midnight. And then from midnight, we really start to taper back. If you don't hit those things, we will be starving. And absolutely, you're going to need to eat a lot to address that physical hunger. It's so interesting how different people are because for one of my clients, she finally figured out, even on night shift, she didn't like to eat past 6 p.m.
Oh, wow.
On a night shift, that was where she felt the best. And so she was able to hit majority of what she needed up till 6. And so it was like, okay, it really wasn't that issue. And then for somebody else I've talked to, they had no appetite overnight at all, none. And so for a whole set of for 4 night shifts, they basically didn't eat. And then at the end of the shift set, they're like, why am I shaking? Why am I lightheaded? Why? I'm like, oh, yeah, because nothing has come into your body over the past 72 hours. So everybody is so different. So it's really being strategic as much as you can. I totally understand this world where you don't know what each shift might hold. You've got the perfect plan in mind. You've got the perfect lunch packed. And then everything falls apart and the shit hits the fan and nothing goes according to plan. And now you find yourself at the drive-thru at 3 a.m. That will still happen, even if you're like working on your nutrition, working on your stuff. It still will happen. And that's one of the things that I think it's important to recognize. This is part of this world. Drive-thrus are part of this world, I think. And it does us no good to like slap somebody's hand when that happens versus saying like, all right, last night didn't go according to plan, move on, carry on, keep going. So and it's so much easier to give yourself a bit of that grace. So
Okay, I know we're running out of time, so I want to get to, I've got 2 more questions for you, but the next one is that in regards to those leftovers. So I'm not going to do a spoiler alert. People, go look at her Instagram and see if you can find the reel where she talked about leftovers. But when we're talking about leftovers, what is the issue with leftovers with bringing them to work?
Yes. So when you think about a classic meal that we have, and I know exactly which reel you're talking about. So we make our dinner and it is like pasta with the meat sauce and the veggies or the salad, like you said. And so we sit down, we have this nice dinner, and the balance of it is probably pretty good. And so when I say balance, I'm talking how much are veggies, how much are your pasta, and how much is your meat? Like what are those components? And then we go and we're like, oh, great, I've got leftovers for tomorrow. So we go and scoop it all in. What happens most of the time, and we don't normally realize this, is that there was like 3 green beans left. And so you kind of put that on top of your spaghetti. But then you've got probably lots of pasta and the meat sauce. And then we take that for lunch. We heat it up the next day. You eat it. And then in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, you are crashing. And you just feel like that heavy eye feeling. And you're like, oh, it's almost better if I don't eat because I don't like this crashing feeling after. What has probably happened is the balance of that meal changed from when you had it the night before, and there was lots of green beans or salad or whatever there was, to what you packed in your lunch the next day. So now all of a sudden, it's primarily probably mostly carbs with a little bit of protein and none of the veggies, which gives you fiber, and that stabilizes your blood sugar level out. So the night before it was good. Having it for lunch, you've actually experienced a greater spike in your blood sugar level, followed by a greater crash, and that has left you feeling like garbage in about an hour or two. So you can take leftovers. Leftovers aren't actually the issue here, but you probably will need to add maybe some just really fast, easy veggies, maybe some mini cucumbers, throw a couple of those in, have that alongside your thing and see, maybe you need a little bit more protein, maybe you don't, but it's very easy for the balance of leftovers to shift from lunchtime to the night before.
Yeah. And I think, like, again, when I saw that reel, I was like, oh, guilty. I was like,
we all are. Yeah.
I feel attacked because this is me.
Sorry. Sorry.
No, but it's so good because it was like that, like, realization of like, yeah, like I absolutely do that because we did eat all the vegetables. Yay, everybody, we ate our vegetables last night. Why did we not think we need them again today? Or again, if you had, say, pizza for supper, well, usually we try and make a salad to go with it. Well, you're not making a salad for the next day. You're just grabbing you're grabbing the 3 pieces of pizza that are left over, throwing them in a Ziploc. Yay, pizza for lunch. Awesome.
100%.
And like, I did say to a friend the other day, she was like, yeah, like, I don't think I've had a vegetable today. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I thought about what I ate today. And she's like, I don't think I ate one vegetable today. And so then I was like, let me think about what I ate. And I was like, oh, I also have not been good on the veggies. I was like, I had green peppers on my pizza.
Right. Yeah.
It's not even like a tablespoon of green peppers. I was like, that does not count as a portion of vegetables, Nikki. You cannot count. Nor the tomato or a lettuce that is on your burger. That is also a portion of
I know. Sadly.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up. And normally I wrap it up with my all-time favorite question, which is, what is your favorite food or snack? But you've given us so many good ones. So I'm going to hit you up with, I want you to tell me what your favorite beverage would be. Obviously non-alcoholic, hopefully, because we're going to work. But we are the kings and queens of energy drinks, of caffeine, of like, give me all the Monsters, Red Bulls, let me crack them one after another. So what would be your favorite beverage that we should be drinking as, and I mean, we'll exclude water because we know that it's supposed to be water.
Yeah. Okay, so my favorite energy drink. Okay, I have to talk from just a nutrition standpoint here.
Yes.
So my favorite energy drink, number one, it's called Pure North. And it's going to be the best for you nutritionally. It's basically like a sparkling water with caffeine in it. So it's this energy water seltzer. They come in a couple different flavors, but they have vitamin D added, which we are all deficient in as Canadians. So that's my favorite one. So it's not sweet at all. It's just like a bubbly, it's like a sparkling water. If you don't like sparkling water, that's actually terrible. So I will give you a number 2. So it's not delicious if you don't like, if you need things sweet. So number 2 then would probably be the Guru energy drinks. So there's a light version. It's just got a little bit of sugar and a little bit of sweetener. So if you're somebody who just likes a little bit sweet, that's a pretty good one.
Okay, I like it. I personally am a Diet Pepsi-aholic, which I know is not really good for me, but I worked for Pepsi before I was like way back when I was 19. And so I did the Pepsi taste test. That was one of my summer jobs. Super fun, except that you have an unlimited supply of Pepsi that is just readily available in icy cold cooler and you're outside at fairs and like farmers markets and stuff. And so you're hot and you're like, yes, I'll have an icy cold Pepsi. Thank you. Yeah, I gained a lot of weight that summer and like end of the summer and was like, why didn't none of my clothes fit? Like I was playing rugby all summer. What is happening? And so that was my like, okay, well, I guess I'll start drinking Diet Pepsi. And then now I'm just like, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on it. Like it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I really do need to scale back and drink more water, but I like it. I like this. I like the fake sweet. I like the fizziness. I hate sparkling water. I'm a non-sparkling water friend. So like, yeah. So, but I'll try these gurus because I have heard good things about them. I have, okay. Okay. And then the last question I have for you is, if there was a piece of advice, and again, you've given so many awesome ones, but if there's a piece of advice that you haven't touched on, what would it be?
Oh man. Okay, I'll end this off with the caffeine talk because we really didn't touch much on caffeine, but it's so much of this world. I think my biggest advice when it comes to caffeine is don't wait until your sleepiest moment to have it. So if 4 a.m. is, like I've done this many times, 4 a.m. is the hardest, 5 a.m. is the hardest part of my night shift. If that's the time you roll into 7-Eleven and grab something, or you go through the drive-through and get your stuff, caffeine can take a long time to metabolize out. So you still might come home and crash and go to sleep, but it can affect your sleep quality. So if 4 a.m. is hard, I usually say try and have your caffeine back it up by a couple hours, have it by 2 a.m. so that it has an extra couple hours to metabolize out, but you should have caffeine in your system for that sleepiest part of your shift, and it'll help you get better quality sleeps on the other end.
I freaking love that because again, I am guilty of this, of like, I'm going to slam a Diet Pepsi at 4 a.m. because I'm dying and then getting home at 7 and being like, fuck, that backfired. That fucking backfired because now here I am at 7 a.m. and I'm wide awake, except that I'm exhausted, but I'm laying here and I cannot go to sleep and my mind is racing and I know I shouldn't have drank that Diet Pepsi at 4 o'clock, but if I didn't, I would have been sleeping at 4 o'clock. So, okay. That's it. Great piece of advice. Great piece of advice.
So that could segue us into a whole nother can of worms, but I'll leave it at that.
No, and I was gonna say, I mean, like we're probably gonna have to have you come back on again and talk because just like again, for me, and I try to consider myself as like fairly educated in what I should be doing, fueling my body, fueling it for performance, things like that. Totally. But like I think what you're sharing on like timings and like this at this, but not at this type of food, but not at this time. Like I think that is really, really important, and that's something we could definitely talk a lot more about and get and kind of really delve into. So for sure, we'll talk about another day for you to come on. I will say too, for our listeners, we are looking at doing a collaboration, Raina and I, for a workshop for shift workers, for first responders, where we're going to delve into this stuff even deeper. Get you that knowledge that you need, give you those strategies, those tools, put that, that knowledge into you so that you can go forward, have those healthy shifts, have that healthy life. And then when you are ready to walk away from this career, be it retirement or moving on to something different, that body, that rebound is not going to be so painful, that you are going to be able to come out of this career without health concerns, without health issues, without, disease or things like that you could have prevented if we would have just made small daily changes to what we were putting in our bodies, the time that we were putting that into our bodies. And so, so stay tuned for that, guys. That will be posted. We're working hard on it. We just don't have a date set entirely yet, but it's coming. Stay tuned. Raina, do you have anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Oh man, so much, but I will wrap up this because I could just talk forever. So I think we covered a lot today. Thank you, Nikki. It was so good. You asked such excellent questions, and your background, like you said, you've lived this. I've only been able to do ride-alongs, but I haven't lived what you guys have lived. So you've got such a wealth of experience. So thank you for everything you asked today. It was awesome.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.